on this planet where everybody was in fact equal and nobody was better than somebody else. And that's why many of us love this country, because we've grown up believing that we're just as good as anybody. People want to know why my campaign is doing well, because they see in me a lot of what they see in themselves. They know where they've come from. Like the prophet Isaiah said, look to the rock from which you were hewn and the quarry from which you were dug. And you understand struggle and you know where you came from. And you want to believe that this is still a country where a person doesn't get to be president by writing the biggest check and waving money, but by raising the biggest ideas and lifting up this next generation and saying, in this country, anybody can still rise to the top. It can't just be about electing a president. It has to be about elevating the next generation of young Americans who, like our fathers before us, fought through the challenges, whether it was a civil war, our 2 world wars, or a Great Depression, or the cynicism of the 60s, wherever it was, somehow we reached deep within and we found the resolve and the resilience to stand again on our feet. And I, for one, am not willing to be the generation that locks the door and turns out the lights on this great land. Far too much has been given to us and entrusted to us. It is a sacred trust. And I want to make sure that the next generation has not just an okay America, I want them to have the greatest America. And I want to believe that the greatest generation is not the one that has already come and is about to die off, but that the greatest generation hasn't even been born yet, because we're going to give them a platform upon which to build. A few years ago, when I was governor, I was asked to speak at the George Elementary School in Springdale, Arkansas. I got there a few minutes late because I'd been in the science fair at the junior high just before. So by the time I got to the school, the principal was almost frantic at the front door waiting me to get there, and she grabbed me and said, "Okay, Governor, they're waiting on you. They've been waiting a few minutes, so come on." And we hurried down the hall to Melanie Key's first grade class, where I was to go and read a story to the first graders at George Elementary. I got into her class, and they had a little chair, one of those little first grade chairs, you know, like they have. It's about half the size of a chair needs to be for one of us. But they had one of those little chairs at the front of the room, and all the kids were sitting in a little semicircle around the chair. They told me that's where I was to go and to sit, and they had a book for me to read to the kids. And I was ushered and sat at the little chair and opened the book. And, you know, not wanting to just suddenly say, okay, the book is, and start reading. I wanted to engage in some conversation with children, so I did what I normally would do with this group of kids. I started asking them some questions. And I said, any of you have anything you want to tell me or ask me? These are first graders. Every hand shot up. There was one little girl in the front, and she was just so jazzed. Her hand went up, and she was waving it. And you know the type? Maybe you were that type in school. But some kids would go like this, and she'd go like this, her eyes bugging out of her head, and no, she's giving them all she's got, trying to get my attention. And I thought, I wonder how long she can go like that. I thought I'll just call it her last. I'll do this kid. And she's giving them. Well, some of you go, oh. Don't you do that? You'd have done the same thing just to see. So I go to all the other kids, and she's still just giving them all this she's got. And I'm thinking, this kid's got energy. She is not giving up. She's going to get in here no matter what. So I finally got to her and I said, yes, sweetheart, you have something you want to ask me. And I thought she was going to say, I mean, because she was so adamant, I thought she was going to say, Governor, my mother thinks you're a wonderful governor. Well, I should have known better than that. And I thought maybe she would say something like, thank you for coming to our class. I didn't know, but I thought it would be something pretty urgent. When I called her, I said, yes, sweetheart. Later, I found out her name was Ashley. And she looked up at me and she says, Governor, we're already late for lunch. I want you to know that I went from being on the pedestal to being under the floor about quick. Even to a 6-year-old to absolutely bring you back down to reality. As you see, it was Wednesday. And at George Elementary, Wednesday was corn dog day. And what she was concerned about was not that the governor of her state had come to sit in front of her classroom and to read her a story. What mattered to her, the most urgent thing on her mind that day, was that it was lunchtime. And if we didn't hurry up and get in that lunch line, she might not get a corn dog. And it might be cold. My staff obviously gave me the business about that pretty badly, about what a big impression I'd made on the little six-year-old. They didn't care about the governor, they cared about the corn dogs more than me. I laughed about it too, and I've thought about it so many times since then. But I left there thinking, I really would like for there to be a day when the only thing that the 6-year-old in this country has to worry about is the temperature of her corn dog on Wednesday. I want to be the president of a country where she doesn't have to worry about somebody killing her at a mall. I want to be the president of a country where she doesn't have to worry about her daddy working in a tall tower and having it toppled by a terrorist taking over an airplane. I want to be the president of a country where she's not going to spend 15 years or more in an education and still not be able to get a job. I want to be the president of a country where she's not going to have to spend so much money just to put fuel in her automobile to get to work that she can't even do any Christmas shopping and do anything like this for her kids. And I'm going to tell you, if that's going to happen, it means every one of us are going to have to put our country above everything else. I want this election not to be about Republicans just beating Democrats, although I certainly want it to be about that too. And speaking of that, a lot of people are waking up to the fact that not only do I have more executive experience than anybody running for president, I'm the only guy running, Democrat or Republican, that's actually faced the Bill and Hillary Clinton political machine, and I've beaten it 4 times. Being on the ballot repeatedly in Arkansas, and every time I did, they dutifully showed up and campaigned for my opponent and raised money for my opponent. And at the end, I was able to give the acceptance speech, and I enjoy doing that every single time. I think 5 is a good number, and I'd like to do it once more. In July of 1996, having served as lieutenant governor for 3 years, my predecessor was forced to resign. I became the 44th governor of the state of Arkansas. And with your prayers and your help, in January of 2009, I will become the 44th president of the United States. And I look forward to
put his sign back up again.
Next year, just to get my master's.
Oh, that's terrific.
I just want to get one quick picture
Absolutely.
with you. Praying for you.
Thank
supporting
you.
all the way.
Harding is a great school.